16 starters are over 30 years old. I think that the National Football League is entering right now in this round, this first round, and in this draft, a fearful draft. And what it is teams are a little bit afraid to take these guys because there really isn't a quarterback out there that you can call a franchise quarterback like you did Dilford or Schuler or Bledsoe or Meyer in the last couple. But what you've got is you've got a tremendous need for some quality quarterbacks. That's what you're going to see in this draft. Two guys in particular, Steve McNair, Kerry Collins, will probably go in the next 3 or 4 picks. When I graded them out, I took a hard look at their abilities. Arm strength, McNair is unmatched here. Mechanics, McNair just looks really fluid in what he does. Kerry Collins has that little twitch in his throw. Pocket presence, Collins hangs in the pocket. That's where he makes his living. Athletic ability, there aren't athletes in this draft at any position that can compare to McNair. And system preparation, I think it goes to Kerry Collins out of Penn State. Now, when I broke them down as far as their ability to throw the football, McNair struggles throwing the ball down the field from an accuracy standpoint. Collins does an excellent job of hanging in the pocket, putting air under the ball, completing passes into the receivers while they're running down the field. Touch-wise, McNair, again, he's a strong-arm guy, really waits till receivers break before he throws the ball, doesn't anticipate it well. Collins does. Rollout, as I said before, there isn't any comparison to Steve McNair. He's the best when he's on the run. Kerry Collins, better stay at home. And then when you look at the reloads, McNair has the quick arm. Collins has an arm that's a little slower. But I rate both of them to a total points of 34, Boom. So I think they both have strengths. They just fall in different areas.
And it may decide when once they get slotted on teams, we'll see who fits where in your eyes a little bit better. The Houston Oilers have a big decision to make. Do they go with Steve McNair? Do they look at the wide receiver Michael Westbrook from Colorado? Do they go Kevin Carter on the defensive line? Let's go down to Dallas for Chris Myers. It's not far from Houston. He had his ear out the window, and I think he heard the War Room conversation all the way up in Big D. Chris?
We're listening closely. Well, the Oilers have lost 40 sacks in terms of personnel over the last couple of years, so the debate came down to Kevin Carter or Steve McNair. And as one of the other Oiler coaches told me, he said McNair is a talented player, but by the time he gets it done, we will have gone through 2 head coaches here, referring to Houston. General Manager Floyd Reese, who's been the McNair backer all the way through, he turned it around, said this guy, you cannot pass up a franchise quarterback. How many teams has Reggie White taken to the Super Bowl? He says McNair can do for Houston what Warren Moon has done, and they relate his athletic ability to that of Steve Young, and they're willing to wait slowly and bring him along rather carefully. Let's now go over to Chris Mortensen at Panther headquarters.
Well, Chris, a couple of things about that Oilers pick. Mike Holovec, the former general manager of the Oilers, still evaluates talent for Houston. He's one of the best talent evaluators in the NFL. He gave McNair one of the highest grades ever for a quarterback. That was an influence. And Floyd Reese has made this point. Hey, they went to the playoffs for 7 years. He's not looking to get back to the playoffs. He wants to win a Super Bowl within 4 or 5 years, and he knows that Steve McNair is going to take some time. But in that 4th year, if McNair is ready, and if he's the Michael Jordan of this draft, then he thinks he's going to look pretty good with this one. Now, for some developments down in Tampa Bay, let's go to Gary Danielson.
There is some breaking news here in Tampa Bay. Craig Erickson, the starter a year ago, looks like a deal has been made with Indianapolis. It's contingent on Craig Erickson signing a deal with Indianapolis, and I really think this is a fit for Craig Erickson. Played for Lindy Infante, the new offensive coordinator there. It's a controlled passing game. Craig, a very hard worker. I asked Sam Weish why the deal was made, and he says he's been working with Trent Dilfer since March every morning, February, March, every morning, 2 to 3 hours. He thinks he's ready to play. So it looks like Craig Erickson to be off to Indianapolis. Chris?
Well, and as Gary just said, they have to sign him. Ralph Cindrich represents Craig Erickson. It's going to be a deal that it can get done, but if Indianapolis tries to squeeze Erickson, there could be some trouble there. What's interesting is, as of yesterday, it looked like Indianapolis was willing to give up next year's #1 pick to get Craig Erickson, which is a great deal for Tampa Bay because after this year, Erickson would be an unrestricted free agent. All right, Chris.
All right, guys, thank you. The Indianapolis Colts had tipped their hand a few days ago saying that they had wanted Craig Erickson, so you didn't know if that's a deal bust or make it a little bit tougher for Tampa Bay to a little bigger price that they would get. But it looks like this will happen, and the Colts now would have a replacement for Jim Harbaugh at quarterback. Hadn't happened yet, but these are the trades that have happened, and boy, have they happened. Cincinnati Bengals got the #1 overall draft pick in exchange for moving their pick, giving their 5th overall draft pick, and they're picking the early 2nd round to Carolina. They picked Ki-Jana Carter. Rob Moore would have been a free agent at the end of this year, Pro Bowl receiver for the Jets, goes to the Arizona Cardinals, who need some offense and just got some in exchange. The Jets get Ron Moore, so now they have every guy that ever ran the ball in the 90s for Arizona, with Johnny Johnson a couple of years ago, and Ron Moore now. A 1st-round pick of the Cardinals, which is 16th, and a 4th-round pick of the Cards, which is 106. Mark Brunell, you saw him play some in relief of Brett Favre when he got hurt. He's a pretty good-looking left-handed quarterback, and now Jacksonville has their young quarterback behind Berline. They get Mark Brunell, the Packers backup, for a 3 and a 5, and they signed him to a new deal, rumored to be about $1 million. That's a pretty good job by Brunell getting that sort of a dollar sign from Jacksonville. But now we get Jacksonville that's not looking quarterback at all here in this draft. But should Houston be looking quarterback here?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question in my mind that Houston's got to take Steve McNair. He is raw around the edges. I'll grant that. Maybe comes out of the competition in Division II schools where it isn't like it would be in the Division I. But he's just too darn talented to pass up. He's the kind of guy you have to have. And the reason why is Jerry Rome has just taken over as the offensive coordinator down in Houston. Jerry Rome's basis comes out of the Washington system. He was in Seattle for a while. I had a chance to be coached by Jerry Rome when I was in Washington, D.C. He knows the quarterback position. It's a perfect marriage for Steve McNair to go with Jerry Rome. He knows what he's doing. He can make the kid into something special. That's why I think it's very important. I think it would work out very well for Steve McNair to wind up in Houston.
And then we take a look at the Houston quarterback situation. They got Chris Chandler, the former everybody, but former Cardinal last year, who was Rome's guy.
That's right.
So he probably will start right now with Cody Carlson being the backup and Bucky Richardson third. Here's my question. When is Steve McNair really ready to step in and be a starting quarterback? Could it be in the 96 season? Could it be late this 95 season? What do you think, Joe?
I think what happens, he doesn't play at all in the 95 season. Doesn't play at all. He learns the system. He gets more comfortable with the National Football League. It's an orientation year. Year 2, he winds up spotting a little bit. And remember, Chris Chandler hasn't been the most healthy of quarterbacks, nor has Cody Carlson. So I would anticipate him not really planning to play in 96, but he might have to because of injury. I would say if you're looking at a timetable for Steve McNair, I would expect him to be the Houston Oilers quarterback in 1997. Now, what gets scary is after the 98 season, he's a free agent. So if you're going to pay $20 million now, it's probably going to cost you $40 million coming back up, Chris. So, I mean, you're investing some money in a young man, but he certainly is the kind of guy you're willing to spend some time on, because he is and could well be your franchise quarterback.
A unique athlete for sure at that position. Chris Mortensen, has Houston got a big... Well, we'll go to Mort in a moment. I know he has lots of thoughts. You were looking marvelous there, Mort, but we'll go back down to Panther headquarters in just a moment. The pick has gone up to the podium. Well, the commissioner is... his cab got caught in traffic, I think, which, by the way, has been known to happen here in New York. There's Steve McNair wondering if this is his spot. And, I mean, you look at the numbers at Steve McNair, which we'll talk about in just a moment. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Maybe that's what the commissioner was looking at, his statistics at Alcorn State.
With the third choice in the first round, the Houston Oilers select quarterback from Alcorn State, Steve McNair.
All right.
The Washington Redskins are now on the clock.
All right, they had the guts to pull the trigger. Steve McNair, 14,496 yards passing in 4 years. 2,300 yards running the football. Passing touchdowns and running touchdowns combined, 152 touchdowns. I don't care who he's playing against, Joe. That's unbelievable.
You bring up the most important point, Chris. He's so talented, it doesn't matter from a competition standpoint. Watch him go back in the pocket. Good, quick release over the middle. People say, well, he can't work from under the center. You saw him do that. Now in the shotgun. Nice pocket presence, steps up, good release. The athletic ability he has is unbelievable. Why not scramble right and throw back across the field? Reminds you of John Elway? Oh, just a little bit. Now he hangs in the pocket, slides up, great athletic ability. He pulls a hamstring on this play, but he stays in. And that's another thing about him. He's tough. He played the next week. Now he just waits in the pocket, gives the old, I'm going right, no, I'm going left. Now I throw like Warren Moon for a touchdown. Back in the pocket again. This is the only thing that's a little scary. is the fact that he can just throw wherever he wants. He throws it a little bit late down the field. Watch the receiver have to wait for the ball. He's going to have to work on his anticipation a little bit, but in my mind, that is the only thing that I think Steve McNair needs to really concentrate on. He may be raw around the edges, but diamonds are as well before they become very valuable stones.
Well, while we do some mining here in New York, and Steve McNair does some mining right there with the Houston Oilers. And again, we applaud the Oilers for having the conviction to pull the trigger here on a guy who can certainly pull the trigger. Now let's go back to Chris Mortensen, and I guess Floyd Reese was the one that won out at Houston, Mort.
That's right. And, you know, everybody thinks Steve McNair only played in the shotgun at Alcorn State, Chris, but that's not true. His first 2 years there, he played under the center, and very effectively, he had better receivers there. Torrance Small, Cedric Tillman. So he didn't go to the shotgun until he hurt his ankle, and then it worked so well out of the shotgun, they just kept him there. Now, Jerry Rome has worked with young quarterbacks very effectively, as Joe mentioned. Troy Aikman in Dallas still gives a lot of praise to Jerry Rome for that first year. Rome, though, wanted Colorado wide receiver Michael Westbrook. He thought Westbrook was just going to be a big timer. I tell you what, the Washington Redskins, next up on the board, they're going to take Michael Westbrook. Now, let's go to Chris Fowler in Buffalo.
More on this day that's dedicated to the evaluation of talent. It's interesting to note that Steve McNair out of high school was not offered a lot of scholarships by power programs to play quarterback. They wanted to have him, but as a defensive player, they were not willing to gamble and give him the chance to play quarterback. Interesting that the Houston Oilers are today. As for Ki-Jana Carter, when he arrived at Penn State out of high school, he was only the third most highly regarded running back recruit the Lions had that year. Stephen Pitts and Mike Archie both considered better prospects at running back, so a lot of things can change in 3 years. Here they are, 2 out of the top 3 picks in the '95 draft. Boomer?
All right, Chris, thank you. The next team on the board is the Washington Redskins, and we understand the pick is in. Steve McNair is the first quarterback to be chosen in the first round from the SWAC since Doug Williams in the late 70s with the Buccaneers. The only quarterback ever to bring Tampa Bay to the playoffs, and a guy who won a Super Bowl ring with the Washington Redskins. That's McNair's pedigree. Here's the Redskins pick with the commissioner.
With the fourth choice in the first round, the Washington Redskins select wide receiver from Colorado, Michael Westbrook. The Carolinas are now on the clock.
We'll get more on McNair in a moment, but the wide receiver Michael Westbrook from Colorado, who started for several years, has the big hands. And this, frankly, just makes sense. You got a young quarterback in Heath Schuler. Let him get a great receiver to grow up with in Michael Westbrook. Joe, this makes sense for Norv Turner.
Well, the one thing that Norv Turner wanted, Chris, is he wanted a guy who, when he got his hands on the football, could get down the field and put it in the end zone. Henry Ellard had a lot of catches last year for the Redskins. The problem is he couldn't really take it past where the catch was made. They feel like Michael Westbrook can. In this draft, he is the guy with the greatest upside, so much potential, so much athletic ability, and so much speed. There he is on a reverse against Oklahoma. Look at him running the open field. Sets up the block very well, goes up the field, picks up a lot of yards. Now he catches the ball over the middle. Great moves. You can't bring him down. He's got good quickness for a guy as big as he is. He also can get away from a bump and run center, and then you see the back of a chair. That's where Warren Sapp was sitting watching the Michael Westbrook film. And then Westbrook comes in, delivers the blow. And this is where you want to see him work, in the All-Star games. He's a tall guy, but he doesn't slip as the defensive back does on wet turf. Now, just flat-out speed. Gets down the field, ball's a little bit underthrown, he gets caught, but not too many people in the National Football League are going to catch him if he gets behind him. He is just a real talented young man.
And he had a 1,000-yard receiving year at Colorado in '92, as far back as that. Heath Schuler, wind up and fire to Michael Westbrook. We'll wind up and fire with the Panthers pick in a moment.
Announcing Taco Bell Border Lights. They're about taste. They're about flavor. They're about 6 grams of fat.
What?
Skeptical? You won't be, because this Sunday only, when you make any purchase, you can get a light taco or light bean burrito free. That white corn shell will cost you nada. Real light cheddar cheese, we're giving it away. Seasoned